Hello and welcome everybody to a Bernette video. Today we are going to be featuring the Bernette embroidery capabilities. Specifically, I want to show you a little hack that I've come up with for doing precise positioning for whether it be centering a design onto an uncentered piece of fabric in your hoop, or as we'll be doing today, words on a line where it really matters that the words end and start on a baseline. The Bernette embroidery machine as a whole is actually a really cool sort of mid-tier embroidery machine. It's priced as an entry-level embroidery machine, but they have upgraded it with a lot of really cool additional features and bonus products to really elevate what might otherwise be an entry-level machine that you would trade in after a few years to get a more advanced machine. They've really elongated the lifespan that you can enjoy your Bernette by giving you lots of room to grow. And we're going to explore some of those features today in this video. So to jump in, the project we'll be doing is embroidering on a panel that is an American flag, and we're going to be embroidering on the stripes. And as you can imagine, it's important that our words not be wonky across the stripe, and that's what we'll be demoing today. The prep that you've missed is simply that I have hooped a stabilizer, specifically an adhesive stabilizer. This has wax paper that's covering an adhesive surface, and it's a tearaway on the back. This is a 6-inch by 10-inch hoop. This is one of the reasons that this is a beyond entry-level embroidery machine. This is a really nice sized hoop, and in my personal opinion, this is the size that you need in order to truly stay with your embroidery machine long term. People who invest in an embroidery machine with a smaller hoop generally do trade in within a year to get at least a 6 by 10 hoop. So this gives this machine longevity to your use. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is score the wax paper. I hooped it with the wax on because I don't want that adhesive gunk on my hoop itself. So I'm going to score it and peel off the paper. I'm doing this because I wanted to demo for you guys how to float a project quite easily with the Bernette. I could easily have hooped this American flag panel in with the stabilizer, but I wanted to demo for you. All right, this way there's still wax paper in between the rings of the hoop, and I didn't get that adhesive gunky on the inside of my hoop. Okay, one last piece of prep I did off of camera is I backed my quilting cotton with a woven fusible interfacing. This is Pellon Shapeflex 101, which is the brand name, but the generic name would be a woven fusible interfacing. This is going to help it resist the crinkling effect that normally happens when you do lettering in the very corners of the letters. And I'm going to set it with the portion of the flag that I am hoping to embroider on there. Now, I'm sure I didn't do a perfect job of keeping it parallel, and in fact, I don't want to do a perfect job, so I'm even going to make it more crooked. The whole point of this demo is to show you that you don't need to be perfect in your hooping. Yes, they do give you a plastic template that has nice parallel lines on it, and so if you put your fabric in your hoop and you lay your template on top of it, it'll show you how well you did keeping that line nice and straight. And you can always attempt again, but the whole point is you don't have to be perfect. We can make the machine adapt to the human error inherent in my hooping. Okay, so prep aside, now we can pop this on the machine. Oh, and I did leave off of threading because I wanted to show you guys another kind of cool feature about this machine. So I've got the machine all threaded right up until the needle. And when I push the needle threader down, it knows it, and it does lower the foot for me. And I can push it fully down and it clicks into place. This makes it a one-handed needle threader. as opposed to a two-handed where you have to keep one hand on there, which can make it a little bit tricky. I'm going to go around this little nub and then under my little guide, and there is a slot hidden up in the throat that cuts my thread and holds it for me. All of this is shown on screen, and so I don't have to remember how to do that at any given time. Okay, once I'm prepared, I just push the needle threader back up and I make sure that my loop comes all the way through. All right, now we're going to put the hoop on the machine. I know that most people will be used to putting the hoop on as the last thing that they do, but because we're going to be doing a version of precise positioning, we're going to need our hoop on so we can see where we're planning to stitch. All right. And it says, can I move? And I say yes. Okay. Now we need to prep our words that we're going to be putting on this flag. Okay. There are a few different fonts that come with this machine. One of the really cool parts of the Bernette package right now is they do include a subscription for you to what's called Bernette Toolbox, which is the intermediate level embroidery software. It gives you more access to different fonts, monogram editing, some really cool stuff that normally you would have to pay extra for. And they throw it in as it stands right now. The deal is they do throw it in with the Bernette. Okay, let's go for basic. We've got capitals and lower cases, and I'm going to say Happy 4th. So we've done our basic setup. This next part is the key. This is going to be the precise positioning demo now that we've done all our prep. So this is a precise positioning hack that I've developed. It's not in your manual. And so we are just going to go for it, and you'll watch the video again as you need to sort of review the steps. Okay, I've brought my design into the editing page. It naturally knows which hoop I have on, so it's going to bring it into the correct editing field. It's not going to try to put it in the medium or the small hoop. First thing we're going to do is rotate 90 degrees to get it in line with our flag. There we go. And then if I wanted to resize it, I could also do that here. I think I'm happy with where it's sized for now. So to get into the precise positioning, just to review, the idea is we want to match the Happy 4th to the degree of rotation that I have hooped here. And I intentionally did it quite askew so that we could see how to match when we're not really good at hooping straight. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is zoom in all the way. And there's a little magnifying glass with a plus on it. And I'm going to keep tapping that until it doesn't let me zoom in anymore. Okay. In doing this, our screen has changed somewhat. I have a little thumbnail view here of the entire hoop so that I can see where I'm looking and what field this is showing. So right now I'm looking at the top of the Y. There's a little turquoise box. It's hard to see, but when you drag it around, you can see it a little better, and you can drag it and look at different portions of the design. What interests us first is the bottom of the H, because we are going to be aligning the bottom of the H and the bottom of the exclamation point to assure ourselves that Happy 4th is going to be rotated to the same angle and matched up with one of these stripes. Okay, so I've gotten pretty close to the bottom of the H using my thumbnail, but I can't get there with quite enough precision to look right where I want to. So I'm going to need to change modes and then use this with a little more precision. There are two modes for what can happen when your finger touches the screen, and you have to be aware of what they are before you touch the screen because it's really easy to undo your hard work. If the dark gray is behind the 4 arrows icon. That means that you're moving your design. And I'll swing it around so you can hopefully see on the thumbnail that it's wiggling around. So that's when we're ready to move the design in order to improve our placement. But we don't need to do that yet. We just need to look at the bottom of the H. So I switch to pan, which is the hand. And now it's dark gray. That means that when I drag on screen, I'm just dragging my field of view instead of dragging the design. Okay, I'm looking at the bottom of the H. And now I do switch back to movement because now we are going to move it. And the first thing I do is I tap the screen below the bottom of the H. What this does is it brings a crosshairs, which represents the needle, to the bottom of the H, and it shows me on the hoop, this is where the machine is currently planning to stitch the bottom of the H. I can tap directly on the H. I can select any of these stitches, but when I'm trying to get to the bottom of a letter, it's honestly easier to just tap below the letter, and then it brings the needle as close as it can go. Okay. So it's planning on stitching the bottom of the H in the middle of this white stripe, which is too high for me. I am going to swap to movement mode, or excuse me, the editing movement by tapping my little I and then going to the 4 arrows. And now I will be moving my design with greater precision than just dragging on screen with my finger. Okay, and I'm going to bring the needle really close to, but not quite on top of that red stripe. So I'm about a needle's width away from that stripe. The H is where I want it. Now we have to check where's the bottom of the exclamation point. So I go to my thumbnail, I bring my little turquoise square close to the bottom of the exclamation point. Then I swap to pan so that I can move my field of view to look at the bottom of the exclamation point. Be careful. The most common beginner mistake is to keep yourself on movement and then undo your hard work that you just did with the H and then drag your design. So make sure you swap back to movement. Okay, so now I'm looking at the bottom of the exclamation point and I am going to change back to movement and tap the screen so that I bring my needle to the closest possible point, or excuse me, to the point where it's currently planning to stitch it. We're way off, and that's because I hooped this or floated it intentionally really askew so that we can practice this technique. So I'm way up at the top of the white stripe. If we were to move the exclamation point to the red stripe, that would undo what I just did before because then the H would be way far off. So we're not going to move again. Instead, we're going to rotate. Tap my little I into the rotation menu, and my goal is to figure out, using the machine as a measuring tool, I'm going to figure out what's the degree of rotation of my poorly hooped stripes. And so I'm simply going to rotate, knowing that I started at 90 degrees. I'm going to rotate until my needle is at the same point as the H was. So now it's a needle's width above the red stripe. Okay, and so my degrees of rotation, 103 minus 90, is 13 degrees. I'm 13 degrees rotated. If I leave it like this, well, I've just brought my H 13 degrees above the line at the top. So I also do not leave it here. What this has done for me is let me figure out how much rotation is there to my project. And I'm actually going to split that in half so that I can bring both the exclamation point and the H the same amount above the line that I'm trying to line up with. And so 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. I can't do 6.5, so I have to choose 6 or 7. I don't know. Let's do 7. So we do 90 plus 7 is 97. Okay. And now what should have happened is I should be parallel to the stripe. I'm not on where I want to be just yet, but I have moved my word so that it's parallel to that line. It's now rotated the same amount. All right. we'll just double check that. I do eyeball it. I've got a pretty good eyeball on me, so that's about 1 centimeter above the red line. And we can go back and check the H. We can drag our turquoise box back up to the H in the thumbnail, change back to pan mode so that I can drag my field of view with a little more precision. Then I tap the movement icon, tap the screen below the H to bring the needle to the closest point. And I'm looking to see if I look like I'm the same degree of rotation above. I think I'm maybe slightly more above the line. So let's see what happens if I change by 1 degree. Maybe we'll go to 6 instead of 7. Remember, I was splitting between 6.5 to go to 6 or 7. Okay. Now I'm going to move to the final location, now that I know I'm parallel. I go back to movement, and I scooch. Oop, wrong scooching. Perfect. All right, so I've scooched the design hopefully to its final location, which is with the H, a needle's width, again, above the line. And just for fun, I will check back in with the exclamation point. I drag on the thumbnail to get close. I change to pan. I find with precision what I want to look at. Tap movement, bring the needle to that position. And double check my work. Ooh, I'm so close. This is coming down to splitting hairs with that rotation. All right, we'll see how we can do with that. Depending on how much you want to double check yourself, you actually don't need to go back and forth like this. You can do it with just 2, 3 steps. You can align the H with movement. You can then rotate the exclamation point to the line, divide that rotation amount by 2, and then move that second point, go back to movement, and move it to the line you want to line up with. So that's 3 steps. I wanted to triple check myself here, so we went back and forth, but you can actually do this very quickly once you get a better feel for it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this out, and we will check in after it's done so I can show you how we did with our positioning. One last thing that I'm going to do before I stitch this is I did want to show you guys the last feature that makes this, to me, an above entry-level machine, which is the fact that there is a basting box. And that's just a choice on our stitch out, and it is going to add a box around my letters. This is really important when you're floating a project. Even if you have adhesive stabilizer, or you've used paper tape, or you've pinned your project to the stabilizer, I always back it up with a basting box. I consider everything else to be a bonus if you can get it, and I never compromise on the basting box. And don't worry that the box doesn't look square. That's just how it stitches its basting box around a skewed item. All right, we're going to start stitching. All right, let's see how it turned out. Okay, so we can see here, pretty darn good with our matching. I think that ultimately if we'd had that 1/2 degree, we would have had it just about perfect, but that's great for the amount that I had skewed it when I hooped it. So that's the precise positioning sort of hack that I've designed, and I hope you find it useful for your own projects. And check back in for a new video soon.